With Monster Hunter World Iceborne comes Master Rank, a challenge that will test every hunter, but with the right gear and builds, hunters can overcome anything. I'm Darcblade, and we're back with even more amazing builds for Monster Hunter World Iceborne. In this episode we're going to be taking a look at full set beginner builds for the Lance. The Lance is one of the most defensive weapons in the game, but it shouldn't be completely overlooked when it comes to offense. Whilst yes, the massive shield it has is one of its greatest assets, being able to block most incoming attacks with the right skills, this can be combined with fast counter attacks and pinpoint accurate assaults. The builds I use tend to focus on all aspects of the Lance to provide new hunters with a variety of builds. A disclaimer for this series though, as Iceborne is still young, most hunters may not have had time to farm everything they need for the most high-end game builds. So this series will instead focus on full set beginner builds, highlighting some of the amazing armor designs while at the same time helping new Iceborne players get through to the end of the main story. As a result, these builds will not feature Elder Dragon loot or augmentations, and the customization comes in the form of different jewels, charms and weaponry. So the first build I use is the Broth General Purpose build. This is a build that is pretty much an all-rounder build. It comes with useful offensive skills, defensive skills and quality of life skills. On top of that, it's a build that can be taken against most monsters as it utilises the poison element. So for this build you need the entire Broth set, which includes the Broth Helm Beta, Mail Beta, Van Braces Beta, Coil Beta and Grease Beta. I'm also using the Handicraft Charm 3, and for my weapon I'm using the Datura Stalk 2, which is found in the Puke Lance tree. As for your jewels, you've got a fair few to play around with here. Now you may not have access to all the jewels I've shown in this video, but the main important ones I've gone for are Tenderizer jewels to max out the weakness exploit skill. I've then gone for Vitality jewels to max out the health boost skill. One of the byproducts of the Vitality jewels was a Challenger jewel to add an extra point to the Agitator skill. I've then gone for Attack jewels to get attack boost to level 4. Some of these also came with byproducts in the form of Guardian jewels, which provide us the offensive guard skill. Another one also came with a Iron War jewel, which provided us an extra point in the guard skill. And finally I've had a jewel to play around with, which I added a Drain jewel to max out the Stamina Thief, as the armor already had that skill built into it to a high level. But anyway, if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which will be 200 health when you're on a hunt and taking all your relevant consumables. You have an attack of 614 with purple sharpness. You have 5% affinity, which will be 55% affinity when you're on a hunt and you're attacking monster weak points that have been tenderized through clutch claw attacks first. You have a poison rating of 660, with a defense that is very strong against thunder, neutral against dragon, but weak to the other elements unfortunately. As for the skills, you have attack boost level 4. Attack boost increases the raw attack of our build, and at level 4 or above it also provides us an extra 5% affinity. You have health boost level 3. Health boost increases our health to that potential maximum of 200. You have weakness exploit level 3. Weakness exploit increases our affinity by a set percentage when we're attacking monster weak points, and this is increased even further should we tenderize that weak point first. You have Handicraft level 3. Handicraft increases the sharpness of whatever weapon we're using, and with this weapon it allows us to get to that purple sharpness. You have Stamina Thief level 3. This is a combination of byproducts of our gear as well as jewels. This enables us to drain the stamina from a monster with our attacks, potentially exhausting them, although it should be noted that this has no effect against Elder Dragons. You have Agitator level 3. It would have been nice to get this higher, but unfortunately we do have limited jewels to play with. Agitator is a skill that when a monster becomes enraged, it boosts our raw attack as well as our affinity. And in Monster Hunter World Iceborne, Agitator is exceedingly useful as you can control when a monster becomes enraged, thanks to using the Clutch Claw as well as the Flint Shot move. Anyway, you'll have Guard level 3. Guard increases the effectiveness when it comes to blocking monsters' attacks, so depending on the level it will reduce the knockback effect as well as the stamina drain, and at level 3 with the Lance you're able to pretty much block most monsters' attacks and not have your guard break. You also have Offensive Guard level 3. With Offensive Guard, should you perfectly time a block, you'll receive the Offensive Guard buff, which increases our attack for a small duration of time. And this works wonders with the Lance. Anyway, you have Stun Resistance level 2, a byproduct of the gear, but it's still useful, and personally this is one of my favourite quality of life skills. Stun Resistance prevents stun effects on our hunter. You have Marathon Runner level 1. Marathon Runner reduces stamina depletion when we perform moves that consume stamina, and with the Lance this could apply to sprinting as well as performing the Power Guard. So there we have it. As you can see, it is pretty much an all-round build and can be used against pretty much any monster in the game. It has decent offensive skills thanks to attack boost, weakness exploit, agitator and the offensive guard skills, but it also has a few decent defensive skills thanks to health boost, guard, and stun resistance. Now, some hunters may ask why I haven't used a shield jaw to provide us with the guard up skill in this build, and the simple reason is that the guard up skill has kind of been built into the Lance's power guard move. Should you perform the power guard for a certain amount of time, you'll naturally get that guard up skill applied. And whilst yes, having the shield jaw in the build does make blocking unblockable attacks a little bit easier, in some respects it can potentially free up a jaw slot by having guard up built into the moveset. But of course there's room for changes. For example, you could drop the drain jaw in favour of maxing out stun resistance if you wanted to. The choice, as always, is up to you. But anyway, let's move on to the next build, which is the Radovan Sleep build. This is a quirky little build. It's very niche in a way, utilising the sleep element. The sleep element isn't necessarily the most meta, but nonetheless, this utilises the Radovan armor set that seems to complement the Lance's playstyle a little bit. So for this build, you'll need the entire Radovan set, which includes the Barn Helm Beta, Mail Beta, Van Braces Alpha, Coil Beta, and Grease Beta. I'm also using an Attack Charm 4, which will be an Attack Charm 3 if you're going through Monster Hunter World Iceborne story for the first time. And for my weapon, I've gone for the Nyx Hellbird 2, which is found in the Nightshade Paolumu tree. As for the jaws, you've only got a few to play around with here, unfortunately. First of all, I've gone for Tenderizer Jaws to max out Weakness Exploit. I've then gone for Vitality Jaws to give us a little bit of health boost. One of these came with a byproduct of a Brace Jaw. I've also gone for an Iron War Jaw, which also has an Attack Jaw attached to it. And finally, I did go for a Shield Jaw here to provide us the guard up skill, despite the Lance having it built into its moveset now. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 130 health, 100 stamina, which will be 180 health when you're on a hunt and you've taken all your relevant consumables. You'll have an attack of 621 with white sharpness. You'll have 5% affinity, which will be 55% affinity when you're on a hunt and you're attacking monster weak points, and those weak points have been tenderized through clutch claw attacks first. You have a sleep rating of 550, and as for your defense, you're strong against water, neutral against fire and thunder, but weak to ice and dragon. As for the skills, you'll have attack boost level 5, although this will only be attack boost level 4 if you're going through Monster Hunter World story for the first time. You'll have guard level 4, you'll have sleep attack level 3. It would have been nice to max this out. Basically, sleep attack increases the sleep rating and build up of our weapon. You'll have weakness exploit level 3, bleed resistance level 2, a byproduct of the gear, but helps resist bleeding attacks. You have tremor resistance level 2, again a byproduct of the gear, but can help maintain our footing when it comes to tremor attacks. You have health boost level 2, it would have been nice to get this to level 3, but we had limited slots to play with. You have flinch free level 1, this is a byproduct of our jaws. Flinch free prevents any knockback from minor attacks, and it's useful when you're playing with other hunters. And you'll have guard up level 1. Guard up allows us to block unblockable attacks. And like I said, it's naturally built into the power guard, but having the skill still allows us to react quicker when it comes to unblockable monster attacks. Power guard unfortunately takes a little while to activate the guard up, so sometimes having the shield jaw is useful on the Lance still. So as you can see, this build is a little bit of a quirky build. It's not the best out there in all honesty, but nonetheless it makes use of the sleep element as well as the Radovan armor. Whilst it may not have the DPS compared to some of the other builds out there, you have the added bonus of being able to put a monster to sleep, set up sleep bomb traps, and deal more damage that way. But nonetheless, if hunters are looking for a different playstyle with the Lance, this is a build to consider. Anyway, let's move on to the next build, which is the Aragon Elementalist build. This build is a DPS focused build, utilising high affinity as well as the Elementalist skill. So for this build you'll need the entire Aragon set, which includes the Aragon Helm Beta, Mail Beta, Van Braces Beta, Coil Beta, and Grease Beta. I'm also using an Attack Charm 4, which will be an Attack Charm 3 if you're going through Monster Hunter World story for the first time. And for my weapon, I'm using Aragon's Misery 2, which is found in the Aragon Lance tree. As for your jaws, you've only got a few to play around with here, unfortunately. Firstly, I've gone for Vitality Jaws to give us a little bit of health boost. I've then gone for Tenderizer Jaws to get Weakness Exploit to at least level 2. An Elementalist Jaw to give us that non-elemental boost skill. And then I've gone for a combination of Iron War Jaws, Attack Jaws, and Expert Jaws. This gives us some points in the guard skill, attack boost skill, and the critical eye skill. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 115 health, 100 stamina, which will be 165 health when you're on a hunt and taking all your relevant consumables. You have an attack of 626 with full white sharpness. You have 80% base affinity, which will be easily 100% when you're going for monster weak points. You have no element, and when it comes to your defense, you're strong against fire and water, neutral against dragon, but weak to thunder and ice. As for the skills, you have Critical Eye level 7. Critical Eye increases our affinity by a set amount. You have attack boost level 5, although this will be attack boost level 4 if you're going through Monster Hunter World Story for the first time. You have guard level 3, bleed resistance level 2, weakness exploit level 2. You only really need to get to level 2 for this build. You don't have to max the skill out, as it will easily put us over that 100% affinity mark, especially after we've tenderized a monster weak point first. You have speed sharpening level 2. This is a byproduct of the gear, but it allows us to sharpen our weapon a lot quicker. You have health boost level 1, constitution level 1. Constitution is a byproduct of the armor. Constitution basically reduces the cost of set stamina moves, so dodging and that. You have quick sheath level 1, again a byproduct of the gear, but allows us to sheath our weapon quickly. You have non-elemental boost level 1, increasing the raw attack of our build, so long as the weapon we are using has an element or ailment that is hidden. And finally you'll have the Aragon's Essence set bonus, Protective Polish, allowing us to put a protective coating over our sharpness gauge when we sharpen our weapon, preventing any sharpness loss for a small duration of time. So there we have it. As you can see, it is a more DPS orientated build with the lance. It still has a few defensive skills thanks to having guard at level 3 and a little bit of health boost, but nonetheless it's focusing on DPS more than anything thanks to the non-elemental boost skill, as well as having an exceedingly high affinity rating. Obviously once you get to endgame you can mix this up a little bit, add in some crit boost skill, which will increase the damage even further by having our crits deal more damage, but that's further down the line. But nonetheless, if you're looking for a lance DPS build, this is one to consider, especially when you take into account its Elementalist and can be used against any monster in the game, regardless of their elemental or ailment weaknesses. But anyway, let's move on to the fourth and final build, which is the Aragon defensive build. This build is all about defense, but it does have a few offensive options as well. So for this build you need the entire Aragon set, which includes the Aragon Helm Beta, Mel Beta, Vambraces Beta, Coil Alpha and Greaves Alpha. I'm also using an Attack Charm 4, which will be an Attack Charm 3 when you're going through Monster Hunter World Story for the first time. And for my weapon I'm using the Gamma Drill 2, which is found in the Dodogama Lance tree. As for your jaws, you've got a few to play around with here. Firstly, I've gone for Vitality Jaws for a little bit of health boost. I've then gone for Tenderizer Jaws to give us that maxed out weakness exploit. I've then gone for some Handicraft Jaws, to which some of them had some byproducts in the form of a Protection Jaw to provide us a little bit of Divine Blessing. There's a few Guardian Jaws in there as well to max out the offensive guard. I've then gone for a Sharp Jaw to provide us that Protective Polish, and then finally one of the Guardian Jaws also come with a byproduct of an extra Attack Jaw, which you're going to need if you're going through the story for the first time. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 130 health, 100 stamina, which will be 180 health when you're on hunt and taking all your relevant consumables. You have an attack of 621 with white sharpness. You have 5% affinity, which will be 55% affinity when you're on a hunt and you're going for monster weak points that have been tenderized first, with a blast rating of 270. And as for your defense, you're exceedingly strong against fire, strong against thunder, but you're weak unfortunately against the other elements. As for the skills, you have attack boost level 5, which will be attack boost level 4 if you're going through the Monster Hunter World Iceborne story for the first time. You have guard level 5, giving us maximum block potential. You have a weakness exploit level 3, part breaker level 3. Part breaker is a byproduct of the gear. Basically it allows us to potentially break monster parts more easily. You'll have offensive guard level 3, blast resistance level 2, a byproduct of the gear but helps resist blast, blight and blast attacks. You have health boost level 2. It would have been nice to get this to level 3 in all honesty, but having guard at level 5 should make up for having a little bit of a lower health pool. You have handicraft level 2. Iron Skin reduces the defense down debuff, is a byproduct of the gear. You'll have Divine Blessing level 1, although here it shows it's at level 3 because of the jewels in our mantles. Divine Blessing allows us to potentially take less damage when we take a hit from a monster. You have Protective Polish level 1, providing us that protective coating we can put over our weapon when we sharpen our weapon, preventing any sharpness loss for a small duration of time. And finally you'll have the Aragon's Ambition set bonus, Guard Up, which gives us the Guard Up skill, allowing us to block unblockable attacks. Much like I said with the Radovan build, it means that we don't always have to rely on the power guard to block unblockable attacks. So there you have it. As you can see, it is a fairly strong build when it comes to defense, thanks to having that maxed out guard and the health boost. It would have been nice to max out the health boost like I said, and depending on what jaws you have, you may have this option. But on top of that, it also has quite a high defense in terms of armor rating as well, and that is even without the armor being augmented. The main issue with this build is you'll burn through your sharpness quite quickly, but despite that, this build still has offensive options thanks to offensive guard, part breaker, weakness exploit and attack boost. And also finally, if you consider a monster's element weaknesses, if they're weak to the blast element, then this build will do even more damage to them. So there we have it. Those are the full set beginner builds that I like to use for the Lance in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Now of course there are a lot more endgame mix sets to come, and as I always say, you don't have to use what is shown in these videos. Use what you want to use, as most tasks in Monster Hunter World Iceborne can be taken on with any item or gear set. Also, builds taken from previous seasons can still work in Iceborne, at least for early game. They'll definitely have the DPS, but they may lack the survivability. But anyway, I hope you found this video helpful or informative, and until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you more full set beginner builds for the Lance in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.